What's up, everyone? Philly Insider. Got Drew with me here, Hunter here. Wow, what a series, what a week, what a month it has been. What a first 2 months it has been to start this season, Drew. Phils are hot. What an incredible game today. I mean, the offense, I was ready to come on here today and be like, the offense has been cold this week, but they're finding ways to win games. And then they put up 11 runs today, and boom, caps it off with epic bat drop to seal that win. I'll give you credit, Drew, on the bat drop. You said it in our chat. I know some people don't give you credit on saying that first, but anyway, how you feeling after that win today?
Got to be feeling good. The Bills they're just absolutely red hot. It's such a special thing. They're playing such good baseball right now. They're doing it with everything. They're winning in all kinds of different ways. There's nights where the bullpen's carrying. There's nights where the hitting's just going off like today, and there's nights where the starting pitching, like Nola, threw a complete game shutout the other night. So just they're winning every way they can, and that's exactly what you need to do, and that's what good teams do.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, man. I mean, this week the offense, like I said, wasn't really the focal point of the wins. It was mostly the pitching, but you got to find ways to win games. I mean, there's going to be points where you're going to have dry spells as an offense, and especially
Yes.
when you're down Trey Turner, that's just going to be a reality. And especially when you're down JT as well. I know JT hasn't been the best this year, and he's been a little banged up, but you're going to lose some pop obviously with him, and you're also going to naturally take a major decline, even if Realmuto isn't hot. It's just a major decline to Garrett Stubbs, which that's really the sole negative of the team right now, for being honest. Him and probably Merrifield, I would say. But overall, man, I mean, what a game today. The pitching has been unbelievable. Like you said, Nola was awesome today. Really have no complaints about him. I mean, yeah, he struggled a little bit early on in a couple at bats. Specifically, the Eddie Rosario one is one that sixed out where he gives him a fastball again. You could probably blame Garrett Stubbs for that call if you want to. I don't want to pile on him too much, but I do think it's noticeable that the pitch calling does seem to be worse when he is in there. I know JT is not a perfect pitch caller. There are things to complain about with him too. With 162 games, you're going to have those moments as a catcher. But I don't know. It just seems like there's times where pitchers don't have as much success when Garrett Stubbs is behind the plate. But that being said, I mean, Nola gave up 2 hits today, I think it was. He was awesome. Walked a couple guys. I mean, overall, outside of the 2 solo shots, he was really, really good today. And again, the starting pitching has been unbelievable to start this year. There's a number of numbers getting thrown around, like 16 plus starts with 7 or more innings. I think the Phillies have the most of those, or you sent something like that in our chat, Drew, but it's been unbelievable. I mean, you and me knew that all of these guys had this potential. We're not surprised by what all these guys are doing individually. I think what's surprising is that they're all doing it at the same time right now and consistently. I didn't think that was all going to happen in April and May of this season. I'm just really impressed with Nola and the pitching staff as a whole. And again, I get the competition hasn't been great, but you play who's on your schedule, and there's really only 5 or 6 great teams in baseball right now. And they played a couple of them. They will play one of them this week in the Rangers, but they're doing what they can, and they've been really impressive. The staff as a whole, and Nola just continued that trend today.
Yeah, and like you said, the whole staff's doing it right now. I mean, it kind of feels like we're talking about everybody except for the best pitcher on the staff, Zach Wheeler. He's been unbelievable this year. He kind of had a slip up there. I think it was on Sunday or whatever it was. But, I mean, he's just
Which Stubbs was behind the plate for, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But, I mean, it's incredible what they're doing right now. Like you said, the staff, I mean, they're doing it on every front. I mean, every pitcher in the staff seems like they're having good games. I mean, a couple guys today, like Sir Anthony and Turnbull, didn't have the greatest outings, but Turnbull gave up a lot of soft contact. Sir Anthony, he's just kind of like a work in progress. I think they'll figure it out eventually, but it's just rough sledding right now for sure. But I mean, kind of gonna flip it there a little bit. Go to the offense. I mean, Cody Clemens. What about that guy? It's just unbelievable what he's doing right now. He is on a special run. It's just crazy. There's not many guys in baseball hotter than him.
No, man. I mean, he saved that game last night with that home run. I really couldn't believe my eyes when it was him who hit that home run. But then, you think about it again, you're like, well, of course it's him because he's just been red hot as of late. And it's not just that the numbers are there. The guy's hitting everything 100 miles an hour, it feels like. I mean, it feels like everything is jumping off his bat. He's had so much success ever since he got called up for that paternity leave for Bryce. And then he got called up in place of Trey. And you're kind of at a spot now where, granted, we are a few weeks out from Trey coming back. I don't know how you send him down right now, like we were talking about via text, Drew. I just really don't see a route to doing that right now. I mean, yeah, you can do it, but you went into the year saying, all right, they're probably going to need a left-handed bench bat at some point. They're going to need to shuffle some pieces around to find room for one. I don't think anyone thought Cody Clemens could sustain success and be that guy who's your left-handed bench bat. And I'm not saying he is that after a couple weeks, but I feel like a couple pods ago I said maybe he is that guy after he did it a couple times. And we're still sitting here asking that question right now. So it shows he's putting himself in that conversation to at least give himself a shot. And I really did not expect this, man. Just incredible because he had that hot streak to start last year, but it certainly wasn't as long as the one he's having right now. And he seems to be seeing the baseball really well too. Like it doesn't seem like you can throw him three off speed or breaking pitches of the same kind in at bat, which that's starting to get into some really dangerous territory if you're talking about someone like that. So credit to him, man. He's been really, really big for them as of late. And like Chris said in the comments there, he can play a few different spots for you as well. You don't have to play him at just one position. So that gives you options when you are down a guy like Trey Turner to move some spots around and move some guys around to find whoever is the hot hand right now. And right now that is Cody Clemens. So, and that says a lot when Sosa's been doing what he's doing too. So you have a guy who can do it versus left-handed pitching in Sosa, and you have a guy in Cody Clemens who's doing it versus right-handed pitching. So that gives you options there in the lineup, and it gives you lineup versatility as well based off of who's been hot lately. And it's questionable to put Stott in the 2-hole right now with lefty back to back, but he's been hot too. So Cody Clemens being hot, it's a really good problem to have. It's a good roster problem to have too, not just a lineup problem. And it's really, really exciting to see what he's doing right now.
Yeah, and like you said, I kind of wanted to talk about Sosa a little bit. That's why I showed this comment. I mean, it's so huge to have two guys coming off the bench that are just scorching hot right now, especially in the absence of one of your top 2 or 3 hitters, Trey Turner. You just can't understate what these guys are doing. It's crazy. They've been so important to what they're doing right now, and I think they've lost 2 games or 3 games since they lost Trey Turner, which is just unbelievable because he was hitting like 350. It's just It's crazy. I mean, these guys are picking up exactly where Trey left off. That's exactly what you need to be doing or be seeing out of your bench bats, especially guys that are kind of like fringe roster guys like Cody Clemens who are coming up from AAA. And I mean, it's been so special to watch. And like we talked about it the last couple pods, I think. Like Bryce hasn't even got going completely yet. Like he had a really good day today. I mean, hitting the ball hard and everything, but he hasn't been on that streak where he's just hitting everything they throw at him. And I mean, it's been crazy.
Right. Bryce has had a really good month of May, and he's definitely hot right now, but it hasn't been on like a everyday basis, right? I mean, It's been a couple games here, a big hit in one game, and then he has a 3 for 5 day. It's kind of been in spurts here and there in certain games. So to your point, that's only going to be more frequent as the year goes on, honestly. I mean, again, he's going to have his ups and downs, but as the year moves along, Bryce isn't going to start seeing the baseball worse. He's going to continue to see the baseball better. I think Paul Boye posted on Twitter the other day, like I think he got 3 splitters or something of that nature. And it was the one he hit for the sac fly to win the game last night. And it's like, you can't give him 3 of the same thing in a row, because then on the third one, he finds a way to go poke that one out there and gets it deep enough for the sac fly to win the game. Like he knew he didn't need to do anything extra to win that game last night. He just needed a ball deep enough into the outfield to get the win. So, yeah, he's been crazy, man, over this past month, and it's only going to get better. And like you said, he's not even fully hot yet. But just to turn it back to the bench conversation, man, I mean, think about all these options you have right now. You have Cody Clemens and Sosa who are red hot. Merrifield, granted, I don't think he's been that great this year, but the potential is there for him to potentially get hot at some point. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but he is a guy who can hopefully contribute for you off the bench. Pache is a guy, we know what he is capable of. Like, he's not really a guy you look at the numbers and evaluate him on. It's just kind of what he's doing on a game-to-game basis and how he's contributing versus lefties and how he's contributing defensively and on the base paths, right? Because of his speed. So, yeah, like Chris said it exactly well. And then, again, like I said, Stubbs is really the only Bad spot on the
Negative.
bench.
Yeah, the negative.
Yeah, the only negative is the word I was looking for. But thank you. Really, the only negative on the bench right now. And I was talking to you and one of our buddies about this in our chat today. David Dahl and Jordan Luplow are playing really well in AAA right now. And granted, I know they're not on the 40 man, but that's really good depth to have behind all these guys. Like if someone else, God forbid, we had multiple injuries and you needed one of those guys to come up, they're playing well enough in AAA to. I would think they would play at least at the level of Jake Cave did last year, right? Like I would hope they'd be able to do that with how they're playing right now. So I don't think I can remember a time where we've had depth into AAA like this, because David Dahl and Jordan Luplow, like, yeah, people are going to say to that, like the comment I just made, well, those guys aren't major leaguers. Yeah, that's the whole point, is they're playing well in AAA and they don't need to be major leaguers. They're just depth down there. So to have guys like that playing well in AAA right now, and you have a couple of options in case you have an emergency situation, like if you're going to those guys, you're in a bad situation to begin with. So the fact that those guys are playing as well as they are, and they're not even like your next guys up, really, like they might not even be that says a lot. So the depth has been really good. I don't know how sustainable it is outside. Like Cody Clemens, I can't really say that anymore because he's just sustained it. So I can't really doubt him. But as far as the other guys go, I don't know how sustainable it is for the bench to continue to be this good and pick up the slack for this long. But they don't need to, right? They just need to be themselves. And we know what kind of pieces they all are come postseason. And I feel like, a lot of it is some of the guys are going to be similar to what they were last year. Like Sosa he'll probably have a little bit of regression at some point this year. Pache will probably have some, regression. He'll probably have an uptick too at some point. They're going to have their hot and cold stretches. They're bench players, right? But it is kind of also crazy how, when you're winning, the depth is suddenly good, right? I mean, and granted, they have been better this year, but some of these guys are performing to similar levels, not Cody Clemens, but to similar levels they did last year. And again, the narrative's that the bench is terrible, but there's really not that many like good benches in baseball. There's a reason these guys are bench players, right? So I just wanted to make that point too, but they have been better this year. I still think they could probably use like some bench depth at the deadline. Like I wouldn't be opposed to them getting a major league bench bat who's like going to be the top guy off the bench if you need a pinch hit situation or you need versatility, but they don't need to do that. Like they have guys who can do that right now. And there's probably better options, but it's not something they need to like really seek out necessarily. It's something they'll probably monitor, but because of how well these guys are playing, they're in a really good spot. And not even just the bench. Like it's guys like today, Castellanos has 3 hits. That's big. He kind of looked more comfortable today. He's kind of slowly getting back into what we know he can do. And again, a lot of it's just like hard contact on singles or just finding green grass on singles. But I felt like all 3 of his hits today were very fundamental. Like they were very sound hits. Just poke it to one hole in the field and, let the ball do the rest, or let the bat do the rest. And yeah, like it's the whole team. Like the lineup is picking up the slack of Trey being out right now. The bench is helping out. It's really an incredible thing to see on the offensive front.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I don't really have a whole bunch more to add about the bench, but I kind of want to talk about one of the regulars. I mean, he's been the best RBI hitter in baseball, Alec Bohm. He's been unbelievable. It's kind of crazy. Like we've seen this guy develop into one of the premier RBI machines. I mean, really, it's what he is. He's a machine right now. But it's so special to watch him right now because every time somebody's on base and scoring position, it seems like he's putting the ball in play at the very least. And he doesn't strike out. He's not swinging and missing a ton. He's taking his walks when he can. He's getting hit by pitches with the bases loaded.
A lot.
He's doing everything.
2 days in a row, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but he's doing it all right now. He's on a special run right now. And like I said, he's kind of developed into one of the premier RBI hitters in baseball. So it's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, Bohm's been crazy, man. I mean, I think for me, the big thing has been the walks this year because he's already at 16 walks. Last year, he had 42 total. The year before that, he had 31. And the year before that, he had 31. He really wasn't a guy who we thought was going to be an on-base guy prior to this season. So I think with that, he's seeing a lot better. Obviously, he's behind Harper, so he's going to see a good number of pitches too. But he's also seeing better pitches because his plate discipline has been better too. So I'm really encouraged by that aspect of his game this year. I think that's been the thing that stuck out to me the most. And I think that's in correlation with everything else he's doing because he's always had that gap-to-gap power and ability there. Like he wasn't really I mean, yeah, today he hit a monster home run. Like, we don't see him do that too much,
Yeah.
and pimp it like he did too. But he really is. He's always had the gap to gap power, like I said, and he's always been a very. I talk about fundamentals a lot. He's a perfect example of that. I mean, he's a very fundamental hitter. Um, but this year, I think he's seen a lot better pitches, and you're now seeing those extra base hit numbers going up too. So it's really encouraging to see what he's doing this year, because if he's going to hit this well over the course of the season as the 4 hitter, they're in a really good spot. And you're not going to feel the lack of Rhys's presence there as much if he's going to do what he's doing. And defensively, yeah, a big upgrade on the corners when we're comparing him to, not upgrade, but like when we're comparing him to, losing Rhys and kind of replacing some of that production. Yeah, if you're comparing them defensively, I mean, Bohm is just night and day from where he started out defensively too. So that's a huge part of his game as well. And honestly, Drew, I mean, he's probably not going to hit enough home runs to be in that MVP consideration, but I certainly
He'll get some votes.
Yeah, he will get some votes, and that is just such an encouraging development from him this year, if that's the case. Again, I know it's only May, but even like I can't speak for you. I know you had him at 40 doubles, and I don't know if I even predicted as doubles, but I didn't think it was very outlandish. I don't even think you, even being as higher on him than I was going to this year, would have expected potential MVP votes. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's crazy to think about.
I did not expect that. I mean, I predicted the 40 doubles, but I mean, it's looking like he's going to hit more than 40 doubles at this point.
Might hit 50. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he has 18 doubles already. Maybe more now. I'm not sure. I mean, it's just been ridiculous. It doesn't matter who's pitching, left-handed, right-handed, best pitcher in baseball, worst pitcher in baseball. He's doing it to everybody. He's doing damage. I mean, he's batting behind one of the best hitters in baseball. And whenever Trey's back, he's batting behind 2 of the best hitters in baseball. I mean, it's just, if he keeps going on the pace he's going, he's going to have 130, 140 RBIs. It's crazy what he's doing right now. Yeah. And the guys in front of him are producing, and that's just making it even better. So, I mean, he's providing incredible protection for Bryce, because like today, they pitched to Bryce whenever the first base was open, which I don't know what Davey Martinez was thinking, but Bryce just punished him right away. And I mean, they did that because Alec Boehm's behind them. You don't want to bring him up with the bases loaded. I mean, they should have, because he would have hit into a double play with the result that he had. But I mean, totally different at bat from when the bases are loaded, being one guy on second base. But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, he's protecting our best hitter, and that's just so huge.
Yeah, and he's hitting 388 with runners in scoring position this year. And to back up your point on both sides of the plate, versus lefties and righties, he has a 900 OPS versus both. So, or above a 900 OPS for both. I really am very, very impressed and pleasantly surprised with how good he's been this year. The first couple weeks of the season, I truly thought he was going to be the same as he was last year. So that's a huge development for this team. And I also do want to talk about his buddy Bryson Stott, who has also really started to get hot as of late. And again, he's a clutch bat, man. I mean, Bryson Stott is a clutch in him. He has a feel for the big moment. Last night, he ties it up in the 7th when we're down. It just feels like every time we need a big hit from him, even if there's no one on base and and he's up to bat, it just feels like there's a chance he's going to hit a home run to tie it up. He's been just awesome lately. Bryson Stott finally getting back to what we know he can do. I think we all expected this to happen at some point, but it's good to know it's finally starting to happen now too. So really happy with what Bryson Stott has done as of late, especially, moving positions, moving back and forth between second and short. There can be a little bit of focus there too, and that can draw a little bit away from other things as well. So obviously at shortstop, he's not as good as he is at second base, but he's still a sound defender. Like it's not like he's going to go over to shortstop and suddenly make errors. It's just he doesn't quite have the range or the arm to be as good as some of the other guys there. But he's certainly a fine shortstop. Like I don't have major issues with him there. But just wanted to note that too, because he's also having to kind of balance that a little bit. And it's not a huge mental hurdle. He's played shortstop his whole career, but I think it's worth noting just on top of everything he's doing right now. It's just impressive. Everything he's done right now, just so far, has been impressive to me. I think is the point I'm trying to make. And again, not something I'm surprised at, but Bryson Stott, man, feels like he's starting to come alive too. And that's a really good development for this offense. Given the absence of Trey Turner right now, he's able to really fill some of that.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Like, as soon as Trey went down, it feels like Bryson got going immediately. And I mean, I feel like that's kind of been a big part of him being comfortable switching to shortstop. Is like we talk about offense, producing with your defense, like makes you more confident in the field. And he's kind of like seamlessly switched to shortstop whenever they have Clemens in there or whatever it may be. He's been solid out there at shortstop. He's done everything that they need him to do. Hasn't made any crazy errors, anything like that. And looks very comfortable. So he's been so huge. And I mean, it's just him hitting behind Bohm and Bohm being as hot as he is. It's just such a good combo because Stott is a singles hitter for the most part. I mean, he's been hitting some taters lately, but it's mostly he's like a contact guy. And if Bohm's hitting doubles, I mean, he's on second base for Stott right behind him, and if he hits, it's probably gonna score him. So it's just such a lethal combo right now with the 3, 4, 5 hitters.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to turn it to a couple guys who haven't been as crisp as of late to our outfield. Marsh and Rojas have not had the best weeks at the plate. Marsh has kind of cooled off for quite a bit now. I expect him to get going sometime soon. Um, obviously he's a guy with lefty righty. He does get some days off here and there. So that will help him as well. I'm not sure if the Rangers have a lefty coming up in this upcoming homestand here that we're playing them on. I don't have the probable pitchers for them for this week. So we'll see. I can't even remember if they have a lefty in the rotation right now. I'm thinking back to last year when I'm not there. But point being, he will get some days off eventually. And, maybe that'll be something that kind of gives him some time to just breathe a little bit. He's not a guy who I think really mentally it affects him very much. He stays positive and he knows it's not like he knows he's going to get out of that slump at some point. But, the longer it drags on, it's hard for it not to creep in mentally. So I just wanted to mention that, a guy who we need to get going a little bit. Some of these other guys are going to cool off a little bit too. So hopefully Marsh can step up when that time comes. And then Rojas, we talked about his defensive issues the last podcast we had, which was a surprising topic that I don't think we had on our bingo card for the podcast this year. And granted, the weather has not been favorable over the last week, but there was a baseball he definitely should have called in center field regardless of the weather. So that is a little bit frustrating. But that being said, I just take it back to the point we've been making all year is that, yeah, he only had a couple hits this past week and, he has a bloop single today. It's not really super impressive, but when the guys in front of him are doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're doing more than that right now, you're not going to notice him very much.
Yeah. And like you said about Marsh, I mean, he's going to come out of this. I mean, he's too good of a hitter at this point in his career. I mean, he's been super consistent since he came over from the Angels for us. And it's been quite the revelation at the bottom of the lineup whenever he is hot because he just extends that lineup even more. And it seems like at that point, Rojas is the only one at any point that you kind of feel like he's not going to come up with a big hit. But even at some points this year, Rojas has been that guy. And like you said, I mean, he hasn't been great lately, but I mean, he's still like very young, still developing, and I think the Phillies are honestly okay with that. Marsh, even though he's been struggling lately as well, his plate discipline hasn't like wavered. Like he's not up there flailing at bad pitches and like taking 1, 2, 3 pitches and just being done. He's having deep counts even whenever he's struggling, and I mean that's just super good to see because that's how you get out of those slumps.
Right. Yeah. I don't really have anything else in the offense, to be honest, unless you do. Another quiet week for Witt, like I said, that's just continued to be disappointing. I don't really want to harp on that point. People know I was not the biggest fan of the Merrifield signing when it happened. So I don't want to continue to be Mr. Negative there because he did have a little bit of a hot streak in between those two cold streaks. But that's not been great. But it's nice that other guys are stepping up and that even though he's not playing well, there's other options right now with Trey out. So I'll flip it to the pitching a little bit unless you got anything else you want to talk about in the offense. The pitching has just been, again, the whole season, lockdown, lights out, whatever term you want to use. They have been just unbelievable. And Christopher Sanchez, it was really good to see him have that start he had the other night just to kind of or the last night to bounce back. Obviously, he's had his ups and downs this year, but he's still been really good. And I think it was Matt Winkelman who pointed it out. Guy threw 97 in the 6th inning last night. That's crazy. Awesome. Good for him, man. Good for him. And, again, we'll see. We'll continue to see with a larger sample size how the velocity affects the movement potentially on some of those pitches, but I'm not really super concerned with how it's played right now. We'll see as the season moves on. That was a concern earlier in the year, but Chris Sanchez, man, I mean, again, his numbers are very good for a back end of the rotation guy. You're not worried about that right now. And Yeah, everyone else, man. I mean, Ranger doing his job. Nola's been really good as of late, obviously, which a lot of people after the first Nola start were having a meltdown, but he's been fine as we all expected. But thankfully, no, like thankfully there hasn't been any like major blowups with Nola since then that people have pointed to get upset about. So that's been nice. Like you said, Wheeler's just been Wheeler, unbelievable, absolutely dominant the other night. Good to see that after again, like you said, the Monday start wasn't the best, but we knew that wasn't again, that's an outlier. It's not, it's the exception to the rule. It's not really a trend. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the starting rotation right now. Again, Taiwan has that toe thing. We'll see. He's supposed to make his next scheduled start. We'll see how he does. Again, not a huge fan of him, but and I do think it sucks that Turnbull's not really been the best out of the pen as of late either. It feels like he's kind of come out of his rhythm too. So not an ideal situation there, but hopefully as the season goes on, Turnbull gets back in the rotation at some point. There's going to be injuries too. That's just reality of baseball and arms. But hopefully it doesn't come at the cost of anyone else going down. That's really important. But I would guess at the end, like as we get into the back half of the year, you're going to have Sanchez, Turnbull, and Walker essentially fighting for that last spot in the playoff rotation, that fourth spot that is. So there will be opportunities there. As far as the bullpen goes, man, I really don't have much to say except they've continued to play pretty well or pitch pretty well. Not their crispest week this past week, but I mean, I'm not really overreacting to something in May when there's a lot of times where they're still executing pitches and getting unlucky breaks. And again, I mean, I think they've been really good this whole year. I think Strom has been unbelievable. He really is making a case to be an all-star right now, Drew. I mean, I don't think that's outlandish to say at this point. Strom really should be in consideration to be an all-star as of right now.
Yeah.
And like Robert said, Gregory Soto he's been fine. I sent that thing in our chat, Drew, that I think it was Alex Carr tweeted it out. He's had, what was it, 77% of his appearances with the Phillies have been scoreless, which is really surprising. It's just the ones that are bad are so bad that you sometimes just get a little bit of a jaded view of it. But he's been better. And I honestly was really impressed with Jose Ruiz this past week too. That guy's pretty nasty. It was the first time I really got to sit down and watch him. He's definitely got a nice like pitch mix and definitely got some movement on those pitches. So they've overall just been really good. I mean, obviously Alvarado and Hoffman and Kerkering didn't have the best weeks of their life, but that's going to happen. And I'd rather it happen now in May and us still win those games than it happen in more important games or more competitive games later in the year.
Yeah, and you kind of just hit the nail on the head on pretty much everything you were talking about. I mean, I obviously agree. I mean, the bullpen, they've been pretty incredible for the whole season. Like you said, not their best week, but I mean, you just kind of take the highs with the lows. Hopefully you can get through the lows. I mean, they're not playing bad right now, but they're not doing what they were doing the first month of the season or so. And I mean, Gregory Soto, like I showed this comment because I wanted to talk about him, but if he can throw strikes, he's going to be locked down. He's got the stuff to do it. It seems like his only problems come whenever he starts throwing balls, missing spots badly, and then he gives up home runs whenever he does that. It seems like, but I mean, it's just like what he did there 2 nights ago against the Nationals was just incredible. I mean, or last night, sorry, my fault. But he was throwing strikes. He was using that slide step that he's kind of integrating now, and it looked really, really good. And I mean, he shut down the Nationals at the top of the 10th inning, and the Phils went out there and won it in the bottom. So that's exactly what you need to do whenever you're coming out there for that kind of outing. And I mean, the last 2 days, Dave Dombrowski, what a genius. Cody Clemens and Gregory Soto. Thank you to the Detroit Tigers, I guess. I mean, what a trade that's been for us. I mean, Soto's done some incredible things with us, and he's done some not so incredible things. But I mean, those two guys are producing much, much more than Donnie Sands, Matt Vierling, and Nick Maton are. I mean, Maton's not even on the team anymore for the Tigers.
No.
So. But I mean, that was a great trade by Dave Dombrowski right there. I don't think that's talked about enough. I mean, things he's done to improve the fringes of this roster. I mean, like the bullpen, they've gotten so many guys at this point where it's like you kind of scratch your head when they sign them, and then they're like elite relievers. I mean, Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strom. I mean, it's just the list can go on and on. But I mean, they've done such a good job with this pitching staff. I mean, everybody is going on a heater right now for the most part. I mean, Sir Anthony's kind of been bad, but other than that, I mean, it seems like the entire pitching staff is just red hot right now. That's exactly what you want to see. And same, like we were talking about the rotation a little bit there. Taiwan Walker, I mean, he's been fine. I mean, we were kind of all really skeptical, but he's went out there and he's done his job pretty much every night. And he looked like he was going to do okay there the other night before he got injured. So I'm not going to look too much into that. But I mean, like you said, the pitching has just been unbelievable.
Yeah, and again, if Taiwan Walker throwing meatballs and getting away with it as the fifth starter, maybe the sixth starter by the end of the year, is the biggest rotation concern or pitching concern, you're in a pretty good spot. So he's only taking the ball once every 5 days.
Yeah.
Again, I my stance on him, but I'm really not going to continue to complain about him if the rest of the pitching staff is going to be this good. It's really only going to become a problem if some of the other pitchers start to take a little bit of a step off. But I really don't envision major regression from multiple pitchers at the same time with how good the staff is, man, because the talent has always been there. And it feels like it's finally starting to show at the same time for all of them right now, as I said earlier. But yeah, and again, the bullpen is really continues to be a huge bright spot for this team. Again, I think it's something they'll probably add to at the deadline, but you talk about Gregory Soto. That guy was an all-star who you required. And again, I know that each team gets an all-star. So I get the Tigers had to send someone to the all-star game that year. But Gregory Soto is still an all-star pitcher. Granted, maybe not the best all-star of all time, but he was an all-star pitcher at one point. And you acquired him for multiple guys who were not going to play in the organization for you long-term and who really haven't done anything particularly special for the Tigers right now. And again, you got Cody Clemens back, who I don't think anyone was expecting to be anything more than a depth infielder in AAA. And just from what he did in the first couple of weeks last year and what he's done now to start this year, while he's been up in the big leagues, he's already been worth acquiring in that trade. So credit to Dave and the scouting department in the front office. Like, they clearly did their homework on Cody Clemens and saw something there. And again, he's hitting the baseball hard right now. You know, I know exit velo is not going to save you every single time, especially if you're hitting it into the ground, but it seems like everything he's making contact with is going to the gaps and being hit hard into the gaps too. So he's been just a really nice, I don't want to say saving grace. That's not the right word, but just a really nice, again, pleasant surprise, I'll say, for this team this year. So that trade has worked out really well. The front office has done a really good job with this team. And, for as much flack that they caught in the off, that's another thing we haven't talked about, Drew, is we talked all offseason about how people were complaining about the lack of moves for this team because they didn't think they could run it back. And again, I don't think they're necessarily they're running it back with the same core, but even if they add other supporting pieces around it next year or two, it's still going to be the same core. And it was the same core the year before. They're just mixing and matching certain spots on the team, right? Obviously, they didn't have Taiwan when they went to the World Series that 1 year or in 2022. So you're mixing and matching certain spots of the supporting cast, but the core is still the same. And they've made back-to-back NL championships with this core. So the front office caught a lot of just backlash. I don't know why, for the lack of moves they made this offseason when they really didn't have a lot of roster spots open and they really didn't have a ton of needs going into this offseason either. And again, the free agency class, you want to make a case. I know I've talked about how they should add a right-handed reliever at the deadline. That's also because there's a number of right-handed options at the deadline that are really good. The best guy who we were interested in was Robert Stevenson this offseason, and now he's hurt. There were also legitimate concerns with him, and he went to the Angels too. So if that's the team that's going to pay you, I'm not saying that's a bad look on Robert Stevenson's part, but obviously a pretty bad organization. So that being said, Robert Stevenson was very good and he was on the come up, but I think it made much more sense to save your powder, like they said, for the deadline. And look, it's worked out really well. They're the best record in baseball right now, and definitely one of the best teams talent-wise in baseball. So it's really not a concern to me that they didn't make a lot of moves or was never a concern to me that they didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason. And I think you were on the same page, Drew. It wasn't a major concern. And here we are. It's very rewarding to be sitting here. I'm glad we were both on that side of that take too, because it was getting old talking the whole offseason about they weren't making moves and how it was a loser organization when they were a game away from going back to the World Series this past year.
Yeah. I mean, this team, they're so well constructed. I mean, they're, like they said last year, they're built for where they're going. And I mean, they're showing out in the regular season right now, which has not been the theme the last couple of years, but I mean, it's welcome sight. I mean, nobody's going to be complaining that they're 20 games over 500. And like the graphic says, I mean, they didn't get the 20 games over until September 27th last year. So right at the end of the season, and man, they are on a heck of a run. And I mean, it doesn't look like they're going to slow down. I mean, they're not showing signs of slowing down at all. I mean, the thing is, like, when your pitching is so good, it's very sustainable to keep winning. I mean, you're not relying on, like, the Yankees right now. They're relying on Soto and Judge completely. I mean, their pitching's been okay a little bit too, but I mean, when you're relying on two guys in the offense to completely fuel it every single night, which they've been doing somehow, but I mean, it's not a sustainable way to win a ton of games in the regular season. And I think that's kind of what happened to the Yankees last year. Like, they didn't have a whole lot of guys around Judge, and when Judge was not going good, it just kind of all fell apart for them. And the Phillies are kind of the opposite of that. Like, they have really, really good hitters, and they have like fringe roster guys who are performing really well right now. And that's just the combination you get. I mean, 20 games over 500, best record in baseball. So it just kind of speaks for itself. And I think it's going to be sustained.
Yeah, I agree with you. It really is unbelievable to think about that we could be the first team to 40 wins this year. Again, something I did not think was possible coming into this season. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything else to say on the player side of it. We talked about Thompson last time and just crediting him for the job he has done. Again, questionable decisions are going to happen over 162 games, especially when you're early in the season and you're trying to mix and match relievers in certain spots and keep them fresh at the same time too. But really don't have anything else I wanted to talk about. I did have something on Twitter. I think it was Luke Arcani. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. He had an interesting tweet, and it was who's your MVP for the Phillies so far this year, biggest surprise, biggest letdown, and then unsung hero. So I did it on my Twitter, but I was curious to hear your thoughts. So I think the MVP is pretty clear. It's probably Ranger Suarez or Alec Boehm, and it's probably both of them, for being honest. Like, those are the two guys right now. I think that's pretty clear. That really wasn't the one I was looking for major insight on. I think we're probably both in agreement there too. And then biggest surprise. So I originally had mine as Junior Marte's first month or so of the season, because I thought he was really good to start this year. But at this point, it just has to be Cody Clemens, man. I mean, I don't think there's any other answer for me, at least. There's other guys for sure, but he's got to be my biggest surprise. I don't know if you had any thoughts on those first two there.
I mean, MVP, obviously. I think it's probably Ranger, just because I think he's 8-0, isn't he? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, they're winning every game he's starting, except for the one, which is a no decision, and I believe they did win that game. But, I mean, it's crazy the run he's on right now. It's like a pitching insanity run. It's just ridiculous. But, I mean, Boehm, I feel like it's every day with this guy. I mean, it's crazy what he's doing. I mean, he's hitting the ball hard consistently, not striking out. I mean, it's pretty special. And I mean, as far as the unsung hero, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, there's so many guys that are performing on the fringes of the roster right now. And I mean, Cody Clemens. Okay. I was going to say Strom is a big one. I was just thinking that right when I said that. And I mean, Cody Clemens isn't really unsung because it's like he's doing it so often at this point, like where he's just performing. Sorry if I keep looking up. There's a bee flying right above me. I got to kill it at some point.
You're good.
Waiting for it to come attack me.
I can cover for you if you need it.
All good. I mean, yeah, like the fringes of the roster right now. I keep saying the fringes, but it's just so true. I mean, everybody is performing right now, and I feel like there's only a couple guys like Stubbs and Witt. I mean, those are two really the guys that are struggling right now, and it's just, other than that, everybody in the lineup has been putting their foot forward and doing something great. It seems like every single day. And I mean, it's such a sustainable way to win.
Right. And like Robert said, Kevin Long, man, what a hitting coach. You know, he got some criticism over the last two seasons too, which surprised me, but he has been, I mean, Caleb Cotham, rightfully so, is going to get a lot of the praise out of the coaches. And definitely, I think he deserves the most for sure. I mean, he's been awesome. Like, he's been a revelation for the Phillies the past couple seasons, but I think Kevin Long is like not far behind him, honestly. And maybe that's, I'm not trying to take anything away from Cotham. I think Cotham is, like, again, like I said, I think he's head and shoulders above the rest of the coaching staff as far as the praise goes right now. But I think Kevin Long deserves plenty as well for what he's done with all these young hitters. And I'm really impressed with the coaching staff as a whole too. But as far as biggest letdown, we won't end on a negative. So we can talk about that one real quick. I think it's probably Sir Anthony out of the guys we've mentioned. And I don't really know if there's any other answers. I mean, I wouldn't call Castellanos a letdown just because what he's doing, I wouldn't say is like a major surprise. And he's been better. But like, again, I'm not I'm not really surprised with his approach at the plate that he's having a little bit of a slump to start this year. But for me, it'd be Sir Anthony. But I'm trying to think of a better like positive way to end this than that.
I mean, the biggest letdown for me isn't like a player like as a whole. It's Johan Rojas's defense. It's been bad, and he needs to be better. I mean, he's dropping a lot of balls that like you expect him to catch, and that's the reason he's in the lineup, is to catch these difficult balls and track these balls down the gap and prevent runs. And he just hasn't been doing that lately, and he needs to be better. He does, and I think he will be eventually, and he's going to be a huge part of the Phils this year. So I'm not too down on him.
Sure. I guess a positive way I just thought of to end the pod was, also I wanted to put this comment back up too. Yeah, when Trey comes back, good luck against any of the other teams, because we saw what we were doing with him in the lineup, and now what we're doing without him in the lineup is even more impressive. So yeah, good luck to this team, or to any other teams playing us. But I want to end this pod. I want you to give me the Phillies on the roster who are all-stars right now. You put up a poll on our Twitter, over 4.5 all-stars for the Phillies. And obviously the teams who are doing well tend to get more votes. And obviously Citizens Bank is packed right now, Drew. And it's been packed the past couple of years, but everyone who I've talked to who's been there over the past week specifically has said it is now like a playoff environment just without the rally towels. That is really impressive because, again, like I said, last year was packed. It was definitely they were filling up the bank pretty consistently, but now it feels like we're back in 2011 where every single night it was always sold out. I think today was the largest home crowd of the season so far. So I do want to ask on that note, the vibes are high right now. There's a good chance they're going to get multiple All-Stars this year too on that note. Who do you have as the All-Stars this year? I'll give a couple right off the bat. We already talked about them. Bohm and Suarez, I think, are probably your two main All-Stars right now. Those guys are probably going to be in the All-Star game. I think Bryce Harper is probably going to be in there again. The Phillies are playing well. He's the best player on the team. He hasn't even gotten hot yet. I would expect him to be on the All-Star roster for sure, if not a starter. And as far as other guys go, those are really the big three, I think. I would say maybe Stott gets in, but again, it's always tough for him because second base is a very good position in the NL. You still have Arias too, who has gotten going. I believe I haven't really kept up with him lately, but he's a possibility. JT is going to be tough just because he's been out for a little bit, so I don't know if I see him making it anymore, even though he plays a position where you could make it. But I think they're going to have a couple. I think Wheeler makes it too, so that's 4. I think they're going to have a couple relievers in there as well. I've already said my piece, so sorry, I kind of took up all the All-Stars, but there's a few more of the relievers too, but I want to ask you who you got on there before I go and say everyone.
Yeah, I was actually texting my cousin like right before the pod, so I'll just read off the list I sent him. I had Strahm, Hoffman, Wheeler, Ranger, Nola potentially. I mean, he's kind of like a fringe one.
Fringe.
Harper, Bohm, Turner. I mean, they could all be All-Stars. That's kind of my list right there. I mean, obviously, I might be missing somebody, but I mean, the point is there's so many. I mean, there's so many Phils that are playing good right now, and I mean, it's just so fun.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, man. Now, I would probably agree with that list too. I mean, like you said, Nola's probably the fringe guy there, but the relievers, man, there's definitely going to be 2 or 3 of them that make it. And like you said, Turner could make it too because he was red hot before he got hurt. And when people go to when the fans go to vote on the MLB All-Star vote online, like most of them, if they're not voting for their own team, they're looking at the numbers. So even though Turner has not been healthy, he's probably going to get a good bit of the fan vote between that and all the Phillies fans who are going to vote as well. So that's a good point. He will probably make it, even though he's been down for 6 weeks. Like there's a good chance he could still make it there. So yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely going to have over 4.5. Drew, I really do. I think you're going to see a number of Phillies in the All-Star game this year, which that's cool, man. There was a year where it was only Odubel in it. There was a year where it was Dominic Brown and Cliff Lee. There was years where Papelbon was the only All-Star they had. So now to be back in an age where they're probably going to have not just a couple All-Stars, but multiple, that is very exciting, especially when last year our 2 guys were Kimbrel and Castellanos. Like, look how far we've come just from one year to the next as far as the All-Star votes go. That's exciting to think about. So anyway, man, I mean, that's really all I got. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap up here.
Nope. I think we covered pretty much everything. I mean, it's like we said in the last couple pods. I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot to talk about for the most part because the Phils are just playing so good right now. And I mean, we kind of been spreading them out a little more, I think, because of the way they're playing right now, because we need some stuff to talk about when we come on here. So it's definitely been a really, really good run, and everybody should definitely keep enjoying it. Get out to the ballpark if you can. It's been electric there. I mean, like you said, it's been crazy.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And yeah, I think we'll probably do one after this Rangers series coming up just because that is a pretty significant series. So keep an eye out for something on that. There will probably be a lot more takeaways from that series than we've had from a lot of the other ones. And there might be some actual negatives to talk about. I don't want to come on here and talk about, be pessimistic. Like, I'm not saying that. But it is good to have those series to kind of figure out where some of the issues are on the team. And we know where some of the holes are too, but there's not, even though there's not many, but it is nice to at least have some of that exposed now rather than later in the season. And as we get into June too, that'll really be kind of the prime season for us to kind of pick up the podcast a little bit more, as we'll play a little bit better competition as we get into June. We'll get closer to the trade deadline, like I've always talked about, but we'll also just be kind of picking up steam on the season too and getting a better idea of where all the major league teams are at, not just the Phillies. So even looking at the schedule, man, like part of the reason the schedule is not really that intimidating going forward, even in June and July, is because the Phillies are so good. It's not because there's not solid teams on their schedule. It's because the Phillies are taking care of business against every team that's in their path right now. Like they just swept the Nationals like it was nothing. And they come, like, even when they're late in the game and they're down, it's like, oh, they're probably going to come back and find a way to at least tie this one up and send it to extras. Like they're coming back in every single game. They did not give the Mets any easy win in that series. The Mets had to scrape and claw for that one win they got in that series. It was not easy for them. So yeah, that's really all I got, Drew. It was an incredible week of Phillies baseball. They've continued to play good baseball the entire season so far. And yeah, I am excited for this series coming up. It's going to tell us some more about the team. But even if they lose 2 out of these 3 against the Rangers, you're not really in panic mode because you know the Phillies are a team that can bounce back. And I honestly expect them to take 2 out of 3 because of how good they've been playing and how hard they are on themselves. Like they are not every time they lose a game, they are not happy about it. We talked about that last time. The team has a different mentality this year, and it's a killer mentality. That's what you love to see. So anything you want to say before we sign off?
Nope. Everybody just enjoy. I mean, like I said, we'll be back, or like you said, we'll probably be back after this Rangers series. Like you said, it's a big series. So, I mean, just keep an eye out for that. And if you haven't already joined the Discord, I mean, I think a lot of people in here probably are already in there. But if you haven't, definitely join there. I mean, we're always in there talking Phils. So check that out for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate all you who tuned into the stream and who tuned into the podcast. Go Phils. God bless y'all. We will see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace.